I'm sorry, I had to break my promise. So Mountain Keyboards came out of nowhere in November of 2020 with a design that let us put the numpad on the right or the left of the board or delete it completely. That board, the Everest, was based on a 10 keyless design, but they're back now with the 60% with dedicated arrows and a host of improvements and design changes from that original Everest board. Let's get the elephant in the room out of the way first. That original Everest board faced big delays when it came to fulfillment. Those were challenging times for brands, both in terms of production and shipping, but several of you reached out to me to express your displeasure about that situation, having paid for a board and then waited a long time for it. This time, this board is an in-stock drop. An important note, the Everest 60 is its own system. The forehead bezel of this board has been slimmed down from the previous release, so unfortunately, you won't find yourself just switching out the TKL for the new 60% and using your existing add-on accessories. This is a floating switch design. We still have that brushed aluminum top edge and still have the nice diffused RGB ring around the board, both sandwiched in and recessed a bit from the edge. Surprisingly, this does have dedicated arrow keys on this layout, which leaves you with the weird delete key floating to the right of the up arrow. Your modifier keys to the right of the spacebar are 1U here now as well. There is no perfect keyboard layout when it comes to trying to please everyone, but I feel like this is the best solution for people that wanted a 60% but were turned off because the majority of them lack dedicated arrows. This may require a bit of getting used to if you're someone who utilizes your right shift. It's still there, it's just a single unit now, so you may find yourself hitting the up arrow by mistake. On top of the board, we have 3 USB-C connectors, so you can pick where you want your cable to plug into. These aren't pass-through ports, so you can't really power another device like a card reader, but I did notice they could charge my G303 mouse. Because there's no recessed cable ports or cable routing channels, there's no worries about not being able to use a custom cable if you want. Mountain actually partnered with Space Cables to offer a custom cable in their store. It's coiled with an aviator. It's priced at like $90 and it's available in either blue or charcoal. The cable included with the board is a simple braided USB-A to USB-C, pretty flexible, decent. You also get a keycap and switch puller and these additional magnetic riser feet, which work by just stacking them up to achieve the desired typing angle. These work really well. On the sides of the main board, we have these little port covers that cover the additional USB-C ports. This is where the optional numpad fits on the sides. We'll talk about that more in a sec. They have opted to move from ABS keycaps to PBT caps, and they also offer aftermarket colored sets for $34.99 in their stores, 5 different colorways, and they have a mirror flip version of each. I'm not crazy about these caps. I do applaud the move from ABS to PBT, and they are backlit, but this font is super OEM. It feels really dated, and for me, devalues the overall aesthetic of the board. The add-on colors, same thing. They feel very close to the offerings from Matrix keyboards that have been in market for a few years now. I do like that they've included all the extras you need for compatibility for your single unit keys and for ISO offerings, though it is important to note that currently this 60% board is only available in the ANSI layout. Still, $35 is very competitive for add-on keycaps, so I can't fault them too much here. The board is hot swap. The included switches are 3-pin, but the board does accommodate 5-pin. They're all north-facing and they have per key RGB. We also have some visible plate foam in here. They have gone with legit Cherry stabilizers here. If you're not a big keyboard nerd, let me break down why these are so important. If your board has a loud, rattly sound when you type, it's almost always because of these, the space bar especially. The Mountain board does these very well. They are lubed, not so much in the housing, but on the wire where it counts, and they're using little pads underneath to minimize the impact and to help the plate mount stabilizers feel more stable. These feel very good, very solid. They sound very muted, probably the best sounding stabs I've heard in a retail board. We'll listen to some examples from the new Corsair board, the newest Razer board, as well as the glorious GMMK2, so you can hear how important these are. Even the newest Ducky 3 required me to go back and lube the stabilizers by hand. These I wouldn't touch. They sound and feel great right out of the box. Instead of the tired Cherry switch offerings, we have Mountain's own branded switches here. I'm not sure I'm allowed to say who manufactured these, but they're very good. Light factory lube, very smooth, great sound. You can get these in clicky, linear, or speed silver. So it's not going to go toe-to-toe with some of the crazy custom boards that we've seen on the channel, but it's very impressive for its market segment. It's really muted, really controlled sound. I don't get anything negative here. I don't have any ping, no rattle, no hollow case resonance of any sort. Typing feel is very firm, but it's not uncomfortable on bottom out. There is some obvious case dampening at work here. The whole package adds up to a board that sounds good and feels very well built. So the killer add-on for this board is obviously the numpad. The baseline board will cost you $139.99 or $189.99 with that numpad included. It's a $49.99 standalone as well if you want to add it later. We have the covers on the sides here as well, and the mechanism for the connector is pretty ingenious. It slides from one side to the other depending on how you have it set up. It lacks its own USB-C connection for a cable, so it's strictly for use with the baseboard. It's got a really small footprint and the connection's pretty robust. You can slide the board around on the desk and use the board with no issues. It never feels like it's not actually part of the keyboard. You can't lift the board up by the sides, it will pull away and detach. You can lift the board up by the top and bottom frame and it will hang on, it just kind of dangles there. The same stabilizer treatment on the main board finds its way over to the macro pad as well, though it doesn't sound like it's as dampened as the main board, it's a little higher pitched. Being able to swap sides is the killer feature, as you can have numpad functionality where you need it or bind macros to it, use it on the left side of the board, making sure you've got plenty of mouse space. All the rebinding and configuration is handled in the Basecamp software. Now, I couldn't get this software to crash, but it did have a little bug when switching the lighting modes where they would update on the board itself, but not on the actual software. I'm never a big fan of any of the control software really, but at least it makes it easy enough to handle per key RGB lighting and all your rebinds. I still wish they had slower speeds on some of the lighting animations, but it's pretty cool how the board just recognizes the numpad, whether it's on the left or the right, and extends the lighting effects automatically through it too. When you're talking value, I feel like you pretty much have to look at this as a combined unit of the main board and the numpad for $189.99. I'm not sure it makes a lot of sense to look at the standalone 60% board because there are a lot more options out there that open up if you're going to look for just a 60 or a 65. Now, arguably, few of them sound as good as this board does, but that numpad is really the money shot here. It is unfortunate that people who have already opted into the original Mountain Everest can't just swap the main board for the 60%, but I do like that they've simplified and stripped down the system here. It would be counterproductive to want a small form factor board to reclaim some desk space, but also want the media control keys and the media dock add-on. So if you want that big command center type experience, the full-size system is still your best bet. But the 60% gives you that mouse room you want without sacrificing dedicated arrows. You also get hot swap, you get solid stock switches, you get great sounding stabs for a production board. The chassis has a really clean aesthetic, and being able to move or completely delete that numpad is huge. Attention to detail with stuff like the port covers and multiple cable connection points are a win for me. Like I said, I do appreciate the upgrade to the cap quality, but that font definitely is not it for me, and I don't like what it does to the overall look of the board. Still, some people out there really like backlighting, and for $35 for an aftermarket set, I can't really complain too much. Because there's nothing too crazy with the layout here, you could definitely go with higher end PBT sets from the usual suspects like Kinetic Labs, Canon Keys, or Novel Keys. As with the original Everest board, I feel like this is going to appeal to a very specific user. If that numpad is something you've been waiting for, you're probably buying already. Great feel, great sound, great functionality. The software is still a little buggy, but they're always kind of a work in progress. If this is a feature set that you've been looking for, I definitely feel like you're getting your money's worth with this board. Seems like a solid fit if you do both work and gaming at your desk, and I'm definitely glad to see them launching after they already secured stock and not going pre-sale this time. I always like to see brands incorporating feedback and responding. It's super important to always be learning. I like to personally always be learning as well, and for that, I use Brilliant. Brilliant makes that really easy and accessible because they focus on interactive learning. It's not just reading, memorizing, and repetition, it's visually stimulating. I'm learning through real-world situations, animations, and interactive puzzles, so I'm learning on multiple levels at the same time. One of their newest courses is Everyday Math. This covers foundational math topics like basic geometry, percentages, and fractions. I find a lot of times going back to fundamentals fills in little gaps in my learning that give me a deeper understanding of the more complex topics. Brilliant is a great way to just jump in and learn at your own pace. It's not intimidating, it's super low pressure, and if something isn't clicking for you, they have detailed explanations that help you get a better handle on it. They have a huge catalog too, all revolving around the world of math and science. If you need to learn how to code apps or understand how algorithms work, or if you just want an ongoing, engaging mental challenge to help you stay sharp, Brilliant's got you covered. If you're ready to get smarter, you can join me and a community of over 8 million learners and educators by going to brilliant.org/badseedtech. And as an added bonus, the first 200 of you to do so will save 20% off their annual premium membership. Big thanks to Brilliant for continuing to support the channel, and thank you so much for your time. Coming up next, we've actually got a mouse video. Shocking, I know. If you want to watch some more videos on keyboards, you can do that right here. If you'd rather check out some audio stuff, you can do that right here. That's it for today, and I will catch you all in the next one. Stay up.